The first thing I want to talk about is exponents. So when we have an exponent, we have some number, let's say a to the nth power. So both of these are exponents. So the a is called the base and the n is called the exponent. So if we have something like, let's say 5 to the 6th power, this means that we're showing repeated multiplication. This is 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5, 6 times. So 5, 6 times. So I mean, you could put that in your calculator, 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5 times 5, or there's a quicker way. So you've got this button right here, this little carrot top, sometimes I like to call it, or top of a triangle button. So what you would do is you would enter 5 and then hit that as your exponent button, and then hit 6 and then hit your enter or equal sign, and you should be seeing the number 15,625. So pretty big number. Exponents usually lead to pretty big numbers. So that's how we use our exponent button. So next, roots. And we'll just talk about square roots here. Square roots. Square roots. So this is the opposite of squaring something. Opposite of squaring. So, for example, since, let's do 4 squared. 4 squared is 16, then that means the square root of 16 is 4. So when we say the square root of 16, we're trying to figure out what times itself, or what times what gets us 16. So it would be 4. So this one in our calculator, you can see, let me switch to maybe yellow here so I can point this out. Right here, you have x squared, so right below that exponent button, x squared, and then above that in light blue is the square root button. So anything in light blue above the actual button is where we have to hit the second button first. So when we hit second, then we're accessing whatever is above the actual button in light blue. So for this example, to do the square root of 16, we would hit second, and then we would hit x squared, because then right above that gets me the square root, and it starts at parentheses. So then when we hit 16 and hit enter, it should show that our answer is 4. So that's how we use the square root button. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is order of operations. You maybe have learned some sort of ways of remembering this. Some people learn PEMDAS, or please excuse my dear Aunt Sally, if that rings a bell. The one thing you have to be careful of, and we'll talk about what all those stand for, is make sure you do multiply and divide together, and it's always good to do add and subtract together. So P stands for parentheses, so any sort of parentheses, so any sort of grouping symbols. And then next E is for exponents, like we just talked about. And since, like we talked about just a second ago, that square roots are the opposite of squaring something, doing any sort of root goes along with this step as well. Then step 3, here's the M and the D. Multiply and divide. Oops. Divide from left to right. So we need to always do this in one step from left to right. And then add and subtract as well. It's a good idea to always go left to right, especially when we get into negative numbers. It gets pretty confusing if you don't always go left to right. So let's do one example with just whole numbers. So let's say I have 3 parentheses 6 minus 2 squared minus 4 divided by 5 times, let's do the square root of 25. Okay, so first step, step 1, I'm going to number them. So if we just do our parentheses first. So just within the parentheses, 6 minus 2 is 4, and I'm going to bring everything else down. Sometimes you can kind of combine steps, but I'm going to break this down step by step. So now step 2, any exponents or roots. So I'm going to just do 4 squared is 16. Now between the 3 and the now 16, if I go back up a step, there's nothing there. So what this means is that this is showing multiplication. 3 right next to that parenthesis shows this should be multiplied. So I'm going to bring this down as a multiplication. 3 times 16. So minus 4 divided by 2 times square root of 25 is 5. Okay, so now step 3, multiply and divide left to right. So 3 times 16, that is 48, minus, so now here I have multiplication and division, but I have to go left to right. So if I do 4 divided by 2 first, that's 2. Just going to kind of put a little half step in between. And then I'm going to do 2 times 5, which is 10. So now I'm on my last step. 48 minus 10 is 38. So we'll get into a little bit of changing different forms of fractions throughout doing some problems, but I'm just going to do 2 different problems. I'm going to do a add or subtract one, which in this case, when you add and subtract fractions, you need a common denominator, which the denominator means that's the number on the bottom. We need a common denominator. For multiply and divide, nope, lost my pen, 1 second. Multiply and divide. We don't need a common denominator, so no common denominator. We do need to watch out though that we cannot do mixed fractions. No mixed fractions. The other thing that I would point out, when we're dividing, we have to flip or take the reciprocal of the fraction after the division sign, the second fraction. So those are kind of some very summarized some of the rules of fractions. So let's do, I'm going to do a subtraction problem, and I'm going to make them mixed fractions. So 6 1/8 minus 2 3/4. So here, these are considered mixed fractions. I'll talk about the other form in a second. So first of all, we need a common denominator. So if I have 8 and 4, the denominator I can get them to be the same most easily would be 8. So I'm going to bring down 6 1/8, that's already good, but I'm going to change 3/4 to something over 8. So if I think about it, 4 times what is 8? 4 times 2 is 8. So that means if I multiply by 2 on the bottom, I have to multiply by 2 on top. So 3 times 2, 6. So now, if I want to solve this as mixed fractions, I can't really do 1/8 minus 6/8. That's going to get messy. So one way I can do this, there's a few different ways, but one way I can do this is doing some borrowing. I'm going to do this over to the side. So 6 1/8. If I borrow a whole number from 6, so that's going to go down to 5. So I break this down to 5, and then the one I'm borrowing is the same as 8/8. So I'm going to rewrite this as 5, and the 8/8 that I'm borrowing is 1, and another 1/8 would be 9/8. So I'm putting that full thing I'm borrowing with the fraction I already have. So now I can clearly do 5 minus 2 is 3. 9/8 minus 6/8, I just do 9 minus 6 is 3 and keep my common denominator. So 3 3/8. If that borrowing thing was a little confusing to you, there's another way. I'm going to over to the side here. The other way I could do this is change them to improper. Make a little note of that. Improper, which means that I have just one number over another. So to do this, 6 1/8, I do 8 times 6 is 48, plus 1 is 49/8. Minus the other one, 8 times 2, 16, plus 6 is 22/8. So now I would do 49 minus 22, which is 27. Now to change 27/8 back to a mixed fraction, just to make it make a little more sense, I have to think, okay, 8 goes into 24 3 full times, because 8 times 3 is 24, and then I have 3 more to get up to 27. 24, 25, 26, 27, so 3 more. So that's a different way I could solve this. Now, if what I'm saying right now too, I'll just add, if what I'm saying right now is I'm moving quick and it's not making sense, I would definitely suggest go and watch some full videos on how to work fractions. Okay, so there's a add and subtract one. Multiply and divide. Let's do a multiply and divide problem. This one I'm also going to start off with mixed fractions. So let's do 5.5 divided by 4. So if you remember, I said we cannot use mixed fractions to do calculations with multiply and divide. So I have to change this to improper. So first I'm going to change 5.5 to 11/2 divided by, so 4, how I could write this as an improper fraction, I could always just put it over 1, because that doesn't change what it is. 4 divided by 1 is still 4, but now it looks like a fraction. So now, since it's division, I need to next flip the fraction after the division sign. So dividing by 4 is the same as multiplying by a quarter, which maybe kind of makes sense. Breaking something into 4 parts is the same as taking a fourth of it. So now with multiply and divide, remember we don't get a common denominator. So what we do once we have it into multiplication, we multiply straight across on top and straight across on bottom. So I'll have 11/8. Change this to mix again. It usually helps make it make more sense. 8 goes into 11 one full time with 3 left over, so 1 3/8. Let's do a fraction to a decimal. So if I have something like 2 5/8, 2 5/8, and I want to change that to a decimal. The easiest way to do this, I'm just going to ignore the whole number part, because it's going to be 2 point something. I just, in my calculator, enter 5 divided by 8, which is 625. I mean, I certainly could do long division by hand as well, if I really wanted to, but this is typically how I would convert a fraction to a decimal. Going the other way, a decimal into a fraction, let's say I have I'm going to just, let's make it easy and we'll do 0.75. That maybe is one you just know off the top of your head. But how we would do this, the process is we take whatever the decimal is. One way to look at it is, think about how you would read this. This is 75 hundredths, because 7 is in the tenths place, hundredths place, next would be thousandths place. So if it's 75 hundredths, just like I read that, I put 75 over 100. The other way to think of it, however many decimal places, that's how many zeros are going to be on the bottom. 1 and then however many 0. So if it's 1 decimal place, over 10, 2 over 100, 3 over 1,000, and so forth. And then I would reduce. So in this case, I'm going to reduce by, if you don't realize 25, that's okay. You could reduce by 5, and then you would be able to do it again. But if I'm kind of looking at like money, how many quarters are in 75 cents? 3. How many quarters are in $1? 4. So this is 3/4. Now in your calculator, the first example, going fraction to decimal, I usually would just do it like I said in your calculator using division. But with the decimals to fractions, an easy way to do this is there's an F to D button. So it's right above PRB. So for this example, I would enter my 0.75. I would hit, now see how the F to D is light blue. So if you remember, we have to hit the second button first, and then we hit PRB, because the F to D is above there, F to D. And then when I hit enter, it's going to read out something like 3/4. It's going to look like that.